why and how it became on this, and I just a little bit, but to understand better and get more deep in it, okay? Thank you.
Well, like I have said before, the roda, capoeira was created by the Africans in Brazil during the slavery time. And, thank you. And later on it was outlawed. But it survived because it went underground. It was outlawed around 1890, 1892. And it continued to be outlawed until more or less the 30s, the 1930s. Then its practice was permitted, but in a very specific way. It could not be done in the street. It had to be done in closed spaces and with a police permission. So it was a way of maintaining that culture that had come from the Africans and their descendants, and also from the outlaws, the minorities that were oppressed of all colors that we have in Brazil. It was a way of maintaining that specific cultural event under control. And capoeira started developing in this, let's say, academic period. So when we want to simplify a little bit the story of capoeira, like I'm doing here, we might say that at first it had a slavery period, then an underground period, and finally academic or whatever, when it's taught in the academies, like you have martial arts or gymnastics or whatever. And it started to become popular around the 60s in Brazil. It was practiced mostly in the town of Salvador, in the state of Bahia, and then it spread to two of Brazil's biggest towns, Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, and after that it started to spread through the whole country, and it became very, very popular. For example, for you to have an idea, when I started capoeira in the 60s, we had about 6 or 8 capoeira academies in Rio de Janeiro. Today there's more than 1,200. This in the period from when I started to learn to now. And as far as capoeira abroad Brazil is concerned, in the beginning of the 70s, 1971, some young guys, I was one of them. I mean young at that time. We were very curious what was going on. This was the hippie period. And we was very curious. We were very curious to see what was happening in the world. And some of us traveled to Europe, others traveled here to the United States. And we couldn't imagine at that moment that this thing that we did, and that time it was beginning to blossom in Brazil. It was not as popular as it is today in the 90s and in the year 2002. We could not imagine that we would be able to have success here. But anyway, we were so addicted to it that we always got a room or a place to teach. And slowly with time, things started to get moving. So specifically here in the United States, capoeira has been around since 1975. But only now, in these last 10 years, it started to be quite well known. I believe there are something between 200 and 500 capoeira centers spread throughout of all of the United States. I think one thing that is making it very popular, not only in Brazil but abroad, is because behind this game, as we call, behind this thing which involves athletic skills and a bit of fighting, a bit of dancing, We have to learn to play the musical instruments. We have to learn to exercise our voice to sing. Besides all of this context that involves different items, there is a philosophy, like many martial arts, and there is a philosophy behind this, which I can talk about it with you for hours, but it's no good, because you learn this by playing with other people, different from you, with other ideologies, other personalities, a guy that's more nervous, a guy that has a big ego, the other guy who's very slow and a bit timid. So playing with all of these people in different places, in different towns, throughout the years, you start to get a knowledge of the human being that goes a bit further than the social facade that we present one to another in our day-to-day life. Because here in the circle, there are no rules. You have the music, and there is a certain atmosphere. If the rhythm is slow, you should do something more strategic, something more like cats, something like a tiger in the jungle. When the rhythm is fast, you should be more like a warrior's exciting war dance, something like that. But this is just a general context. Anything can happen here, even on stage. If a guy gives a blow that the other guy doesn't like, because he said, oh, I could have hit the guy there, but I didn't. Now, after I stopped my foot, he swiped me and made me fall on the floor. And I lost face. You know, the sort of ego trips that really come up when you have all this excitement around you. And so one capoeirista educates the other. You, of course, as it is the first time that you are seeing capoeira, you see the dynamics of the game. You see